Hi to everyone, guys. Hi and welcome with me, the 40K Empress. And of course, EmanG is here to talk with us about what happened like for the past year. I'm very excited to have him here, and thank you so much for being here, EmanG. So, hi to you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, what can you tell us, like, if you can give us first quick recap of what happened since this whole thing started, and then we're going to get, of course, to what is the current status of the trial right now. So let's get a quick recap of everything that you can tell us from how things started up to now.
So, if you want to go to the very beginning, I started. Well, I've been in this field for a while now, almost 8 years, and it began when I started moving over from making things by hand to going over to 3D modeling, and that was mainly for 3D printing. And I've been doing that for a very long time, since about 2017 or so. And with the specific, I guess, my case, what happened was I have an account called 3D. It's the biggest account on called 3D, at least from my discussions with the owner. Pierre is his name, and he owns it with two others. But I have the largest account on called 3D, and basically, I put out models for printing. I put out everything for free, mind you. Like every model was free. No one was obligated to pay me or give me money to download them. But uh, it wasn't until 2022, about July of 2022, that I opened a Patreon account because I thought that, like, basically, if I could incentivize people through, it's kind of complicated, but basically, even though I was putting these all out for free, I thought if people wanted to donate money, and it would be like a donation essentially, no obligation to pay me, but the models would they would still all be free, and there would be no differences between like if you paid me or not, you'd still get them. That's not a question. But it would basically be a means of people supporting me, like any other donation, whether you give it to me through PayPal or anything. And it became very successful, obviously, but obviously, when Games Workshop found out about this, they did C&D me, and that led to eventually direct filings with the CCB, Copyright Claims Board in the U.S., and that's what led to this case. And it's been very financially taxing for me.
Yeah, and you put
And
the
it's been going on
GoFundMe.
for about 11 months. 11 months now, to this point.
Almost a year. That's just horrible. So yeah, you put the GoFundMe, which is of course very understandable. So from that
I was desperate.
moment,
I was very desperate because I didn't even want to.
yeah, I mean, I can only imagine what you've been going through with all of that. So, there has been other cases like yours, similar as far as I understand, but they never went that far. So, what do you think
The
happened?
conditions of what happened to me, I don't think you'll meet any other 3D modeler that has, at least the ones I know, that are very similar. I mean, there's some that definitely came close. Like there's one guy I know, his name is Loggy K. He got a direct case as well, though he got out of it much easier, either because his situation was a lot different, or because maybe uh, based on the country he lived in, he got out of it with a better deal. But I don't know. Usually, with most artists in my field, usually a cease and desist is enough, and they just close down after that, or they comply with whatever they ask.
I see. Okay, so I read some of the court documents. Of course, they're very complicated. There's a lot of things there, but basically, they filed a lot of claims, like a ton for Total War Warhammer 3 and some others, I think. So yeah,
The
basically,
claims were 12. It was 12 claims, which constituted 14 copyright registrations.
oh, okay. So do you think that it's because the models were too close to the Total War Warhammer 40K equivalents of those characters? Do you think that that was the problem?
I think that was definitely part of it. Yes, that they were just recreations of they look too similar to the obviously the official kits, and that was
Mm-hmm.
part of it. Oh, but also the part of it came from obviously that this comes down to, and that's why they went through registrations of copyright. this is all about intellectual property rights. Ultimately, if they want to, they can always fall back on, and this goes across the board for almost every single company that has large intellectual property holdings. You can always fall back on, this is our intellectual property, and you're not allowed to do what you're doing with it. And if you don't comply, we will sue you into the ground. That's usually something they can always fall back on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Basically, those characters, how they look, that goes through the theme of the game that makes it the studio. But of course, originally Games Workshop are the original owners of those characters and all of that. So I'm
Yeah,
not
and that
sure
was
how.
something that was very strange with the with the case, because, and again, you can see it in some of the documentation, not all of it, but with some of the documentation you can see, like, Games Workshop assumes full ownership, even though Total Warhammer was published by Sega and developed by the Creative Assembly. They deliberately leave them out of it and don't involve them, which means Games Workshop takes full ownership of everything, like down to the. Does that make sense? They just
Yeah.
say like, "Oh, this belongs to us 100%, no questions asked." So they seem to retain full ownership of it, even though it was made a license to another studio. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that is also what I thought. I mean, how are things connected in the ways of the copyright? Can they just really skip over them completely? Maybe
That's
if
what they
they're.
seem to do. They just ignored they ignored their attachment to it, and I I saw a lot of comments from people that were saying like, "Oh, E-Man was dumb. Like Sega should sue him too." Like, and basically asking me to get sued by another company, which is just vile. I hated that.
Yeah, I don't think that people can place themselves into other people's shoes. I talk to other people, I understand where they're coming from, because mostly the argument was that because you went so close to the original models, that is why it's justified for GW to do this to you. Now, I don't think so. When I did also my video about all of that, I pointed out that the whole system is not fair to begin with. I mean, the whole system is not made for certain very specific situations. Everything is, more positive towards the original owners of whatever IP we have a case about, and basically they can do whatever the heck they want, and they can't actually prove damages because exactly
Oh, they
because
couldn't.
yeah, but because of the specifics of each and every case, because there's no exact equivalent sometimes of the things that they're producing. Sometimes there are exact equivalents, of course, of some of the miniatures, but sometimes they're just not. So how can they even claim that
Well,
you
that was
did them
something.
damages?
Well, that was something that my attorney brought up to me. It's in the pre-discovery phase, which is how it usually works with a case. You have your filing, then you have the date to opt out. Once that's over, then you have pre-discovery, then you have the actual hearings, and that was something she told me during excuse me, during the pre-discovery phase. She told me that they can't prove damages, and they didn't even try.
Okay, so does that actually help the bottom line of everything? Why they? I mean, yeah, guys. I mean, the end. If you haven't heard the end, is that basically the case was dismissed? So do you think that they dismissed the case because of they couldn't prove damages?
Well, I think the reason that's part of it, but I think the bigger reason is because they were trying to squeeze blood from a stone. Have you ever heard that idiom?
Yeah, I have. Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, yeah, I know.
Or water from a stone. The idea that, you're essentially trying to do something that's futile because I did not have the money that they thought I had.
Yeah, it just to me just it's not fair. It's just not fair. It's a lot. It's a lot not fair to you than it is to them because really, guys. I mean, to everyone in general in the audience, if you ever really downloaded a pirated game, a lot of the times the audience that would do that, people that would do that, they don't have the money. Like, I mean, it's a few cases, but first, they don't have the money to buy the game, so they are pirating the game. Second, they're just interested in the game a little bit, so they just download the game, try it, and then leave it. So they never had actually the desire to buy the game in the first place. Basically, you have someone that is not a lost customer. You have someone that would never actually pay anything to the original company. And that is similar to how people buying 3D models or anything that's 3D printed, they decide to invest their money there instead of whatever the original company has. And I gave this example with the Emperor of Mankind. GW still do not offer the Emperor of Mankind. So it's kind of absolutely ridiculous. If you
Yeah, I saw
make
that.
that, you
We talked
don't.
about that.
Yeah, I mean, if you create that and you sell it, you don't take anything from GW because they don't have that as a product. You really don't take anything from GW, really.
I feel like that's a slam dunk. I mean, with how expensive the Warhammer 30K line is, I'd figure that would be something that would just be a no-brainer. A very large statue of the Emperor of Mankind, really expensive, maybe even die cast, which would be outrageously expensive.
Yeah, and that's why probably Major Kill was able to make this very very awesome statue. Of course, he hired a 3D artist to do that, but it was extremely close to the emperor, like so close. I don't see anything like a differentiation in the style of the armor or anything else that will suggest that that's not 40k. Everything about him screamed the emperor of mankind. Maybe he changed, I think, how he is called, but other than that, he did that. He sold a few scales and he was never bothered by GW. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, it's strange. I mean, well, maybe there's subtle differences because, I mean, unless they examined it, I mean, again, if it's not a parallel product, like you said, but I don't know if there are subtle differences that make it so it's not the same. Maybe he avoided certain things with trademarks. Maybe I'm not really sure. Maybe he was. Maybe he, but it was all done behind closed doors. But we don't know because, well, is it still available? I'm assuming it is. Or was it a limited release? I'm not sure.
It was a limited release, but yeah, because Major Gil used to mention when he had issues with GW before, but since he started doing his 3D models for a bit of a time now, at least from what I'm noticing, definitely he does not have any issues with the ways that he's doing things now. Now the Emperor himself, he does not have like a definitive look to him. There's a lot of art, but there's always different elements to the armor, or something else is different in his hair or whatever. His
Hmm.
face is never consistent. You can say that's the same character, but you can't say that he's exactly the same in every official art that you see because he's just not,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so on the side note, I'm looking for a STL still of the Emperor, so if anyone has that, I love to get it and to print my own Emperor. I mean, I don't have a printer, but some friends are going to do that for me. I just want to have the Emperor. I'm just a huge fan. Okay, so how did the case transpired like for the past few months? I mean, did it seem like it was going like somewhere that's going to be in your favor? Like, what are your impressions, or what you can tell us in general?
Well, after April of this year, that was when things were getting really bad because by April I mean, I don't know how, I don't know what country you live in. I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
What are you not sure? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What country do you live in? I don't know
Oh,
how your
Bulgaria,
tax laws
Bulgaria.
work. Yeah, I'm not sure how you guys pay taxes. I don't know if you guys pay it yearly the same time, but in US we do, April is deadline for taxes, so that's what we do every
No,
year.
we don't have such a thing at all. Basically,
No?
I mean, if you're a business, you're paying such I mean taxes, but otherwise you're just paying your bills like for water and phone, all of those things. You don't make like a huge stack of paper with with the taxes. Yeah, we don't do that.
So you don't well, in the US we have to file, usually at the end of the year you have to file your tax returns and you send that to the IRS. So after April when I paid my tax returns and I looked at how much like how much money in my account, I did not have I was like completely out of money was the deal. I was in the negatives. I started having to look to alternatives to even get money to continue paying the retainer for my attorney. That was where things got really bad. And I started having to take loans out just to do so. And that's how I got to the point where I said this in Side Scroller's interview as well, where I was getting to the point where my debt was very far into the negatives. And that's why I needed 45K to, finally pay it off. That's how bad it got.
Yeah,
And
so
I was
that's
thinking that I thought it was completely hopeless because from the perspective of Games Workshop, think about it. They basically have the infinite money cheat. They don't have to worry about finances, but I do.
yeah. Well, did the GoFundMe help you? I mean, I know that like it
Oh, it
reached
did.
about 12,000 only, but I hope that that
Hmm.
helped.
And I'm so grateful for that. Everyone who donated that. I couldn't imagine. I didn't think that kind of generosity I could see in my lifetime from for all, for lack of a better word, total strangers. Like it was very surprising to me. Couldn't thank those people enough. I'm grateful.
Yeah, so I mean, can you fix the whole situations with the money that you have now? I mean, can you pay everything off now and just forget that this ever happened, so to speak, financially?
Financially, it's going to take some time because I mean the reason why I when I started the GoFundMe, that amount that is what I needed, for complete coverage. But the amount that I got is going to help. It's just thankfully from the perspective of my attorney, her firm specifically, they said you can pay this. They don't have to. We don't have to pay every month the retainer to replenish it. They said I could pay it like a loan monthly until it was all paid off. So that was good. That's very helpful for me.
I really hope that you can totally destroy that and be free of it, for sure.
But in regards to the donations, like I mentioned it earlier, I didn't even at the beginning. Well, not beginning. At about May or June, I didn't even really want to do it because I mean there was a combination of several emotions. I felt like if I did it, would be e-begging, or I feel shame, or people would not believe me or think I was committing some kind of fraud, or they would accuse me of being a scam artist. Which I mean, enough people. I mean, that already a lot of people already accused me of being a scam artist, so that was, eh, and I didn't want to do it. It took a lot of convincing from my friends and my family before I finally decided to go through with it.
Mm.
And it was like I considered it like last resort. I was really against it for so long. I'm glad I did,
Yeah, because it's just going to take at least some part of the load off your shoulders, at least.
and it did.
And it's good for people because, as I said before, guys, if MNG wins this, and basically, for me, the fact that the case is dismissed is a win to a big extent because you're not being pursued, so to speak. I mean, how do you see it?
The case was the dismissal from the CCB is with prejudice, which means for the filings, once the terms of settlement have been reached, as in they have been fulfilled, then basically the two of us, so Games Workshop and me, we will leave each other alone completely. So that means they won't come after me, assuming I comply. So that's good.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that they just decided to do that and to drop it, so to speak. But yeah, this is win for everyone because we did show that we can stand behind someone and help them out, and one person is not completely defenseless against the huge company, and that really the environment that all of this copyright laws and copyright situations that they can even think of there, all of that is just a mess. It's not perfectly clear always, it's not perfectly fair at all, so we have to have this in mind. In general, I'm talking in general, guys, before we put the fingers on people, because GW is a huge company. They're also not like completely innocent. They also took inspiration from other things. They combined it together, which is of course transformative content. So you can't say they stole from somewhere exactly. I mean, unless you give me an example. But the point is that when you're trying to do something with an IP, and it's something that the original company does not do exactly, and you're catering to another audience that is not going to be client to that original company. That original company is very anti-consumer basically because of the prices and I mean how they treat people in general. For 37 years they didn't become more humble or anything like that. It's just quite the opposite. So I don't think that we can honestly take the side of the company in this case because you're really just trying to help people to be a fan of 40K and then to give something to people that they also will like because they're also fans of those things. So this is at least how I see it.
I, I mean, since I've talked to, I mean, again, my attorney, I've had her for as long as I have, and I've talked to her about this. It seems to me that what you said about copyright, it is very messy, and it's because these laws are quite, I'm not going to say they're outdated, but they are very they're very old. They have only been added to since, I mean, we can thank Disney for how long copyright even lasts now because they were the ones who lobbied for it being to the point where it lasts anywhere between 70 to 90 years after the author dies. An absurd amount of time. That's almost a lifetime. That's a very long time. Copyright almost feels like it lasts forever. But it's all three of these, which are intellectual property, copyright, and trademark. Those are all very messy. They all constitute a field that is very messy and requires, well, a lot of specialized expertise. Why my attorney, her rate is more expensive than in other fields. Like this is a very specialized field. That's why her rate was for him it was $375 an hour. That's a lot of money. You can imagine.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I feel like there's a bit of a double standard as well, because when you think about the 40K animations, something like a Stardust, which became so popular, instead of just suing Sam Pedersen, GW said to just hire him to do a Stardust too. So when it suits them, when they think that they can also profit from something that a fan made, because they were free to make it in a particular context and it was okay, and they decide, okay, then we're just gonna buy that, so to speak, and use it. So when it's convenient for them, it's fine. But when it's not, and they can't use it, they cannot use 3D printing, well, it's not fine. We're going to sue you,
I mean, they do use 3D printing. Games Workshop does, but just for prototypes, not for kits.
Yeah, I mean, they don't use it obviously for mass production. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Even though I think they should try at least somewhere. I mean, that's something I wonder is like, I mean, look, I made an entire, I mean, with all the stuff I put out, I mean, I made, I would say alternatives that, to things that were either old or, I'm not gonna say outdated sculpts, but definitely sculpts that had not seen refreshes in a very long time. And I figure like that'd be something that they would see as worth it. Like if you update ranges that are considered to be old, I feel like that would be a good thing. But that's up to their discretion. And it seems like, especially with 3D printing as it becomes more and more accessible, and I'm sure you understand that, like as 3D printing has come a long way from the 1980s when it was first conceived, and to the point where in the last decade alone, it's become so accessible for on the consumer level, where it can be you can have it in your own home, assuming you follow the safety guidelines, by the way. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where it's so accessible that Games Workshop will have trouble, and this extends to a lot of companies that do model kits in general. They would have to adapt or see, themselves fall behind.
Yeah, and that's something that they should consider and definitely should not take it on their their actual fans that want to produce something for the fans, from the fans to the fans. Oh, okay. Just want to take a look at the chat real quick. Hi to Asmogan in the chat, fellow YouTube creator. Hi to you. He says, and thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much. He says, despite my numerous issues with EmanG and the framing of this case, I'm always happy to hear GW lose. You are a lucky young man and should be careful going forward, my guy. Congrats and be more careful going forward, my dude. You can respond, of course.
That's fine. Oh, I understand.
And yeah, guys, I just want to say hi to everyone in the chat in general. All the salutes, hi to you. Okay, guys, I'm hoping that you're enjoying this conversation. So yeah, I think that it is very important to establish this context, context of how things really stand when it comes to those things with the copyright, when it comes to what fans can do. There was so many issues with fan-made things in general, not only now with 3D printing, but in general, and they were always either attacked by a company or not, and just left to flourish. And you see what happened with Alpha Busa with the TTS series, at
I
least
don't
for
think Alpha Busa ever got any C and Ds. He just decided that it wasn't worth it to keep going because he would be at constant risk of getting, a C and D and putting all of his eggs in one basket. He didn't want to because I think he's a parent now, like he has kids or a kid, and he had to think
yeah,
about his future. So that's why he probably changed to Vampire the Masquerade, World of Darkness,
yeah.
which is doing pretty well, by the way. They're really funny, the ones he's making in the
I
last 2 years.
I know. I mean, I used to watch him like from the beginning, even cover them, but then after a while, it just is not the same thing. Of course, 40K is much more, it's much more rich, just a lot more to joke there about, and it's very clever. It just makes this environment of creating like creative environment to make more more funny, more creative stuff with it. So of course that I would love more TTS. But yeah, I also was going to mention that he decided to put, to pull his own plug. Basically, he didn't actually receive anything. People still think that he did, but as far as I remember very well, and he made the video about that, he didn't. He still. He didn't want to be at risk, and that's why he did it. But then again, he is under of course, parody. Under fair use, because parody contest of a parody is very important. And his animation type, that's something that GW has no interest to produce. They didn't even know what the heck that is as a style. It's something that I first saw with TTS, what he did. So they don't have any grounds to touch him, if you ask me. From everyone that they could have sued that did 3D animation, he was like the last person that they could have touched. And of course, he has all the series. All the episodes are already there. He still just had one episode to finish, just one. That's gonna be,
Mm-hmm.
perfect. But he just like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. It's just very disappointing, from a fan standpoint.
The thing is, with TTS, I mean, hell, TTS is something that got me interested. It wasn't the thing that got me interested, but it definitely contributed to it because it was a very funny satire of Warhammer 40,000. That one, and obviously it was multiple years in the making. But and that extends to a lot of other people. A lot of people, they only became interested in Warhammer 40K because of TTS. I mean, I'm sure you've seen that before, right?
Mm. Yeah, it's helpful. So yeah, that's actually a very good point. Fans made other people become fans of 40K, and then they invested their years and their time on 40K. That's exactly what happened with me and freaking the Astartes project. I was like, what the heck are those guys? They're amazing. That's how I discovered 40K with the Astartes project, and since then I'm like, books, 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 and trying to catch up with everything that I can. And this became my main thing because I really fell in love with it, absolutely genuinely. So yeah, fans just have a huge contribution, I think, to GW. Like that's a fact. That is absolutely a fact. So it just really seems that when it's convenient, they're gonna, hit you with the law book. But when it's convenient, they were not. Yeah, the opposite. But then when it's not, they're really gonna hit you with the law book.
I feel like fan projects, I mean, they definitely help keep community alive. That's definitely true. I mean, that's what makes a community thrive, or part of it, not the only thing. But fan projects are, well, I mean, the 40K is a great example because, again, there's so many fan projects for Warhammer 40K, and that's what contributed to the issue with the animations and them getting effectively centralized to Games Workshop because they hired a lot of people to make them for the service Warhammer Plus, if you remember. But I mean, we still haven't seen Astartes 2. I don't know where it is. I don't know why it's taking so long. Where
Yeah,
is it?
there's some rumors that it might be canceled because Emma Pedersen already has another project that he actually released a trailer very recently of. It's kind of like 40K-ish something. I have just watched a few seconds of it, so I can't really say. But it's up in the air and nobody is saying really anything. I have no subscription to Warhammer Plus. I just had that. It was a gift like from the very beginning, and then just one friend just gave me his account account information. Just log in and watch animations. That's how we did it for like the past year. So yeah, they're pretty much at the constant drought of animation, and now they're going to release the new animation, which is Tides. It's going to be like a continuation of Pariah Nexus, and that looks pretty solid. And Pariah Nexus was quality, so I hope that is good.
I guess I did think Pariah Nexus will look pretty good for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing not to like about it, really. Okay, I want to ask you just a few things. So how is how are you now? How are things now with you and everything after it's actually over?
Well, the main takeaway is just after the case has all been finalized and all that. The main takeaway is relief. I'm just very relieved that it was over because, again, it was such a financial strain on my life. Like you probably get that from all the things I've explained. I just the constant the idiom would be the sword of Damocles hanging over your head. That's That was almost constant because like I was in no position to negotiate like to the point as in make demands of them. It was more complying with what their demands were. So it was entirely up to them and at their discretion if they wanted to refuse and go through with it. And if they did, there would be nothing I could do except file for bankruptcy. And that was a constant threat that always loomed. And that's why I was crossing my fingers, hoping. I even mentioned it on side scrolls, like crossing my fingers, begging that they accept negotiation. Because if they didn't, then there was nothing else I could do but filing for bankruptcy.
Yeah, I mean, what an absolute nightmare.
Hmm.
Okay, so all of
And
those
one other
files.
thing I should mention
Oh,
is
okay.
that I spoke to a separate bankruptcy lawyer. Um, during the times of the proceedings in the last year. This was after. This was in about in June, I believe. I spoke to him. Or was it May? I'll have to check the dates. But I asked him, and this was separate from the attorney for copyright, like just getting a second opinion. And what he told me was because the judgment was so big, 360,000 plus. He said that if they were not going to negotiate, even if you don't know if you'll win or lose, that you should file for bankruptcy anyway because the risk is so high. And he also said if they do give you a deal of any kind, as in they do offer to negotiate and settle out of court, then you should take it because it's preferable to filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy.
Just
Like even the bankruptcy lawyer recommended take their deal, you don't over filing, which is unbelievable.
yeah, I'm just so happy that none of this happened.
I
Really.
am too.
Okay, so can you do any Warhammer 40k 3D STL files in the future at all now?
No, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna avoid anything under their umbrella. No, I'm not gonna touch it. It's not worth it.
Okay, so
Even though I have
definitely.
such clear passion, I mean, I do. One of the reasons why I even did this, it's not because of greed. I did it because I like the intellect. I like the universe because I'm a big fan of it. That's why I did it first and foremost because I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
And well, even though I have a lot of passions, there's a lot of things I wanted to do that I still wasn't able to, but I planned to do, but now I cannot, and because they shut me down. So I'm not gonna go near their intellectual property. No. I do plan on making my own intellectual property. It's currently in the works, but nothing from them. Avoid that entirely.
that's actually pretty awesome. Oh, that's awesome. I wish you a ton of luck with that. Oh, that's so great.
There's no guarantee it'll have success, but I mean, I can only hope.
At least you're trying. I mean, it's important to create what you feel inside that you should, and then whatever happens, happens. But you did that step, you made the effort, and you let your creative juices flowing. So that is, yeah, I know how that feels. So yeah,
Well, I should mention, it's in regards to what you mentioned about it being unfair. Now, this is probably going to be controversial, but I do have an opinion on this that again it may be controversial. When it comes to
say
fines and
everything.
high
Yes,
amounts of what?
keep
Say one more
going, keep
time.
going.
When it comes to fines or large amounts of money, when it comes to like these big companies, usually when they go after each other, these cases can be drawn out for many months or even years. Like look what happened with an example would be when Apple got taken to court by Epic, the guys who make the Unreal Engine. Like that case took more than a year, very long time, probably with large teams of lawyers looking over all the accusations and the arguments. With an individual like myself, where it's me, just one person, and then you have a multi-billion-dollar company, one of the largest companies in all of Great Britain to boot. Like they have a lot of financial assets to throw at the wall. If the only punishment for committing a crime like this, in their eyes, is just a large fine, then this law only exists to punish poor people.
Basically, yeah, you're right because the
I
bigger
know that
companies
sounds
can always pay
controversial,
it,
but
whatever it
it
is.
feel on some level, I feel like that's true. If the punishment is only a fine, then it only exists to punish poor people.
I think that has merit. I mean, I do have to, of course, think about it more, but it has some merit there because really the bigger companies can pay anything. It doesn't matter really. They're just gonna lose a few millions probably hundreds maybe, but most of the bigger companies can really pay it. Yeah.
I mean, one of the worst. I mean, just as a there are some exceptions to this. Like one of the worst examples is what happened during the Gulf of Mexico oil spill with BP, where they had to pay billions and billions and billions of dollars in financial damages. Like that was because the disaster was so widespread, but that's like an exception for something so egregious that you can't ignore.
Yeah. That's a bit different, you can say.
Hmm.
Okay, let me see some of the questions that actually people asked you. I posted like a community tab. There's just like one or two questions there.
By all means.
Let me just see if this is not repeating and I didn't ask it already. So after this issue with Games Workshop, did EmanG have plans of returning to make 3D models, maybe migrating to his own themes and models? So yeah, basically what we discussed, but yeah, 3D models in general, you're basically going to do that anyway, just not 40K, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, no, it doesn't have to be limited to. I mean, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. That's obvious. That's good finance. That's good advice in general. But no, it does not have to be something in the Warhammer or Games Workshop umbrella. No, there's a lot of things I still want to make and still have made that I've been working on that do not fall into that. In the last 6 months, I released several models from the game. They're based on or inspired by the game Helldivers 2. If you've seen that game or played it.
Oh yeah, I played it, yeah.
Yes, and I mean, and I knew that there would be accusations if I didn't, so I made full time lapse videos of them being made. So I did make them entirely independently. So, and I did that again mostly just to practice, and again because I like the game, so I wanted to make those. And obviously, there's no miniature game equivalent, so there's not really any harm done in that department. But ultimately the ownership still lies with Sony and Arrowhead. So if they ever wanted to tell me to stop, I mean they would, and I would have to. I mean I would comply with it, but I would hope that they don't do that. And I mean I'm not charging for them either. It's just for fun. I know that sounds like a very simple motivation, but it is just for fun.
Yeah, it's a good practice as well, to figure things out and just, become better with Blender. You're working with Blender, right?
I use primarily three programs. Blender is the one I use the most. It's a good jack of all trades. Also use ZBrush, which is more of a sculpting tool, and then there's Autodesk Fusion, which is more of a functional print for functional prints, more
Okay,
hard
awesome.
surface objects.
Jesus, I wish I could learn all of that. I mean, I can literally, but I just don't have the time. I'm still having my
Oh,
great
don't get me
pile of
wrong,
shame waiting
very
behind
time
me.
consuming.
Yeah.
Very time consuming. I mean,
I mean,
I this is all I did. This was all self taught. When I doing this, it took a lot of trial and error, a lot of learning over many hours, hundreds, thousands of hours of my free time to learn how to do this. And I always try to look to improve. I mean, even with Blender, I mean, it's such a complex program. I learn new things every day that I did, like every time I use it, that I didn't know how to do. Like because even I know that I'm obviously not going to know everything. There's always new techniques, new shortcuts, new add-ons, either free or paid, that help and improve your workflow, and that's what I like to do.
yeah, I'm aware of a lot of software, just not 3D in general. I have tried Blender for a bit, but yeah, just because I don't have time, I just have to drop it. But yeah, I do have some kind of an idea for sure. Okay, so I just want to read the last three comments in the chat of Jeffrey. He says a lot of fan works is essentially free advertising for
You're right.
commercial IPs. Yeah, of
You're right.
course.
It is.
That has been the case for years, and unfortunately, some of that is changing for the better, some of that is not. Because, for example, freaking Warner Brothers decided to go back and copyright, I mean, basically demonetize all the videos that people are doing, especially, yeah, I mean, including my own videos. I used to do reactions of like Mortal Kombat and Game of Thrones and all of that, and whenever I use footage in the videos, trailer reactions, whatever is literally fair use, transformative use, something that has been on YouTube for years, they decided to just monetize it and block it in some countries even. So there you go, Warner Brothers. Thank you very much.
The abuse of the copyright system on YouTube is its own issue that still, even after YouTube's conception 20 years ago, still has not been resolved. So it's just
Yeah,
Eh.
it's a
I don't
pain.
think it's ever going to. I don't think it's ever going to go away. No, not truly. I mean, there have been good strides towards changing it for the better, but ugh, God, it's always been there to some degree.
Yeah, we'll wait and see, I guess. And Jeffrey still says power protects itself. A corporation getting fined or taking losses usually gets subsided.
Decided.
Yeah. And he also says, actually asks you a question. Can you recommend a 3D program on Android?
And like on the mobile device,
Yeah,
no, I
Android.
don't. I only use Windows. I don't know any programs for Android. No,
Yeah, also it's probably going to be
fortunately.
very hard to just do that with your fingers. I mean, there's so many things that you have to use.
There's a lot of. I mean, this goes into my profession as well because my day job, like what I went to school for, I'm an architectural drafter, so I have a lot of transferable skills in this. So it's all about knowing your shortcuts. A lot of keyboard shortcuts you have to learn, memorize, makes things easier.
Yeah,
Can't just do that. I mean, you could try, but like doing that on a phone is a terrible idea. No, no. Absolutely not.
yeah. Okay, great. So I think we covered most things. If you want to say something like overall about things, I mean something to finish on, basically you can go for it.
Mm, well, we'll say I this hasn't really deterred. I guess. I mean, I mentioned this before, kind of, but this hasn't really deterred my passions, if you know what I mean. The case hasn't like crushed my determination or my interest in doing 3D modeling as a hobby.
That's
Because
great.
the printing community is a thriving one. It is niche, but it is a one that continues to grow, and I will always want to make more models for it as long as I live, as long as I'm able, because it's what I like doing. So I'm not going to stop doing that. I mean, obviously, the issues of avoiding legal problems are still there, and after all this, after almost a year of being in um, legal and financial hell, obviously I'm going to be cautious about that and make sure to avoid anything like that in the future. But it ultimately is still something that I enjoy.
Awesome. Yeah. And as someone that has produced a lot of things physically and in terms of digital art myself, I totally get that. And Jeffrey says creating is its own reward. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, creativity is its own reward. Yeah, you're right.
And
And I love
okay,
doing it.
yeah, and it gives you something for the soul, and it just is a stress relief as well. All those
hmm
things. Okay,
And
so
I mean, a lot of people have told me like, now I don't know how you feel about this. Since I started making the models from Helldivers, and by the way, just so we're clear, they're made independently. I didn't steal them from anything. I didn't pull them out of anywhere else. I made them independently. People are saying, "Why are you still stealing IP? You learn nothing." It's like if I'm stealing IP by doing this, then so are then wouldn't everybody who makes fan art, especially 2D, wouldn't they also be stealing IP? And when I mean, isn't that the same?
it's literally, again, I mean,
Like, sure, my medium is 3D, but this is the only type of art that I know how to do. Like I don't really, I'm not a 2D artist. This is what I like to do. This is what I know how to do.
yeah, and actually we can do similar things with even the AI art. I mean, I can go to Copilot and tell it to make Warhammer 40K art and it's going to do it. It's not going to be completely the same, but it's going to look like 40K and I'm not stealing the IP when I do that. I do those things mostly for my own use. I'm trying to create different things, settings to tell different stories. Once again, something that GW has no equivalent of at all. So it's still
Well, that's
different,
the
still
thing.
changed enough as well.
If I may, I mean, can I talk about what I'm working on, or would you prefer I didn't? This is your show, so
No, you can talk about whatever is on your mind.
all right. Well, what I've come to understand is essentially if you want to make any sort of money or even be successful in this game, that means, and by game I mean this field of, making wargaming specifically, or just 3D modeling for printing in general, then the only way you can is through a intellectual property that you own, that you have complete creative control over. Because if you don't, then you're always going to be shackled to something else, or you're going to be limited, or you'll be under the threat of legal ramifications.
Yeah,
That
but
makes sense.
uh, do you also, of course, have to create like the lore and everything behind that
That
intellectual
too.
property? It's not only visuals, I
Yeah, and it's a
assume.
lot of and it's a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of free time, a lot of patience, a lot of research that I've been trying to my best to do.
Do you require any writers, or you
No,
can
no, this
write
is
everything?
all so far. This has all been done. I mean, I've worked on it for the last. Let's see. I started. This idea came. I mean, I started working on this as an idea back in. So let me check my calendar to be sure, if you don't mind.
I'm just gonna read Asmongan's comment in the meantime while you're checking. So he says making a model from the ground up with a reference is different. With reference is different from copying one and making minimal modifications. In 2D art, the equivalent would be tracing a character from the OG art.
There can always be subtle differences.
Yeah, basically a lot of subtle differences, but I mean, you can make it from the ground up, I guess, and still make it very, very close with sort of, with some differences. Um, yeah, that's. But if you copy paste it and then change it around, that's just gonna shorten the process. I mean, yeah, it's whatever you can. It's whatever you can do. I mean, one, of course, is a lot harder than the other. Making it completely from the ground up, but still making it look.
That takes more time.
Yeah, it takes more time. I mean, if your goal is basically to create something that looks like, let's say, a bloodthirster, because that's the only thing that I can think of right now, it's a lot easier to scan it or to download the file than work on that file and just change things around. I mean, I know that that's not.
Well, scanning's even more of a. I mean, that actually is pretty illegal. I mean, but people who do that is that those are like people in China and India and Russia that do reselling. The 3D scanners where they take the actual model kits and then they actually scan them in a high resolution with a high resolution scanner, and then they replicate that through lots of cleanup, and then they put those into a mold and then they recast them. And that's or they just take the actual model kits and then they recast them directly, like either one. That is very, very illegal. But they do it because they're outside of jurisdiction.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that's definitely then. I mean, that's very convenient, I guess, for them, but it's yeah, that's not good. Doesn't sound good. Well, I mean, when you take a character from Total Warhammer, let's say a Nurgle demon, how much you have to work on that basically to make it a printable 3D file?
It can take like several weeks. It's a lot of time because when you take something out of a game, like this is not just for this. This is every game asset that exists. Typically, it's always low poly intentionally because things have to run in real time. So things have to be retopologized to run in the game engine. So typically, everything is done with textures and shaders. So you have to basically you're going to be left with something that's really angular and very difficult to use. And on top of that, it would be a non-manifold object, so it wouldn't even print properly. You have to do a lot of cleanup, and then you have to actually do a lot of sculpting to even make it look presentable. Because if you just print, even if you did make it a manifold object and then you printed it, it would be very angular. There'd be lots of very obvious like lines. Do you know what I mean when I say something is low poly? I
Oh
can send you an
yeah, I
example.
understand about graphics and all of that. Yeah. Okay,
So
that's basically
pretty much
what some of the arguments were exactly about that. That if you take a character from a game, that's presumably a lot more. I mean, a lot easier to do than if you just try to build the same character from the ground up. So, what do you think is easier to do, basically?
they're both. Which one be easier? You
Yeah, I
mean what
mean,
I
if you
described?
decide to just like take a Nurgle demon, build it, sorry, build it from the ground up without using anything as a reference, without using anything from the game, or just take a file from the game and use that to build upon. So, which one you think is more work? Yeah, let's say it this way.
I did that once or before already. Do you know what the blight drone is?
A blighted drone?
Let me send you a picture.
Okay.
This is just an example, just so we're clear.
Okay.
Let's see. This is what a blight drone looks like.
Aha! A disgusting nurgle drone.
It's a demon engine.
Okay.
I made one of these independently, but it's easier because this is a machine. But it's still very fleshy, so you have to do all the flesh, and you have to make it look presentable, and you have to make it look authentic because it's not all just angular parts with hard surface modeling. I mean, some of the parts of the shell art on the gun and a lot of the pipes, but this was a lot of work as well. I made one just to see if I could do it. I did one that was printable. So, but that was a very long time ago. That was on my page as well. But again, that was another thing Games Workshop told me I should remove because it was too similar to the real one. So.
Okay, so I put that on the stream real quick so people also can see it, at least one of the pictures. So you mean that you did this from the ground up?
I can send you a picture. Let me give you the render, actually. That'd be easier.
Okay. And Aspagan also says, okay, I'm gonna read your comment, Aspagan, just hold on. More time, less lawsuits. Ground up gives more room for fundamental changes from proportions to stylization to custom details, assets to make it more your own. Copying a model mentally encourages two to play closer to the model copied or artist traced. This is my experience anyway from modeling and sculpting my own models over the years. 2-1-2. What do you think about what Asmongan says? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's pretty close to the issue usually. I mean, but again, sometimes. I mean, in my experience, sometimes I don't like ways certain thing looks. Sometimes I prefer making changes because it makes more sense to make changes. And then that's what I mentioned when I was talking about subtle differences. There are just some things that I don't think look as good that I think could look better. So it'd be better to just make them independently and then add them in. That's what I like to do sometimes. That was a thing that was very common with what I was doing with game assets. The idea is that there are a lot of things in the game that, well, one, either they're not usable or they just don't look very good. And so it's like, no, it's better to make these from the ground up as well because, frankly, I think I could do it better. So that's what I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, both you and Asmongan understand more about 3D modeling and all of that, but I take it that if you do it from the ground up, yes, it's a ton of work. If you do it the other way and take a model, it's still a lot of work, but you also have to deal with the fact that you have to make this thing for printing. You can still add a lot
This
of
extends to
detail.
modeling for printing in general because fundamentally modeling for real time in game and modeling for 3D printing are fundamentally different from one another. The workflow and approach are completely different. There are some similarities when it comes to like with animation, like some things need to be posed, so they need a skeleton or things like that. But other than that, they are very different in terms of what the end result is going to be. Because something that's made for printing cannot be used as a game asset, and vice versa.
Yeah, and I understand that. I'm just wondering what is your incentive to even take then, the file from the game anyway, if you can make it better.
It's a good baseline. So.
Uh-huh. So basically a baseline. But you can still, add a lot on that model anyways. I mean, you can add different details on the game model, and you can add a lot of details on the original model that you're building up from the ground up.
Yes.
Okay, so it's like more of a personal choice, as I understand it, but then you still have to work a ton, anyways. Okay. I lost my train of thought actually when we started talking about those things.
I hope I didn't overburden you with information. Don't want to.
No. I actually love to understand. I really want to understand these things. Anyway, because I also wonder. I mean, there's a lot of similarities when you create digital art as well, when you want to have something for reference or don't, when you want to like drew even on a piece of paper someone, you know, we want to look at that person or whatever you're drawing. So
Mm.
yeah, it's just like case by case situations, you can say.
Mm.
And Jeffrey says GW is not innocent of boring either.
Innocent of borrowing, but fundamentally, I mean, this extends to every company, but I believe, I mean, at least this is only something that I understand now after all this time, after all these proceedings have passed. Any company reserves their right to protect their intellectual property, and frankly, I mean, sure, some people get around, like especially if you live in a place that's outside jurisdiction, you can get around it or get away with it. Now I live in the U.S., so that's not a option for me. But ultimately, it is still within their rights to do so. And even if you want to say that they stole all these ideas from insert ABC, still that doesn't really invalidate that either. It's kind of just something that it's a fundamental of why copyright even exists.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I just thought of Flash Kids, you know, they are doing this new animation, Space
What
King.
Flash Kids are doing is hilarious. Yeah, it's very funny.
Yeah,
Did
and
you know
they're
that they
like,
submitted? Did you know they submit? You know that video where you see the Black Templar, the animation they did where the Black Templars are murdering all of the furries. They actually submitted that to be added to Warhammer Plus. Like they actually put it in an application as a joke. They thought
really?
it would be funny. Yes,
Oh my god. I mean, they
that's
put
really funny.
themselves into the mouth of the wolf and like Jidari didn't bite?
No, they said they well, I mean, if I could guess what the reaction was like, is this a joke? Is this meant? Are you serious?
Oh my god. But they don't touch them for that. I mean, they can do the furries thing, they can do the Space King thing and say this has nothing to do with Warhammer, where we're just a parody again of Warhammer. It's so funny. So they can do like the direct thing with the Black Templars and the other thing with the Space King and they don't touch them.
That doesn't seem. I mean, they could probably the same thing I mentioned applies earlier. They could try. I don't know how successful they'd be, but they certainly could. I don't know what the angle for that would be from GW because, frankly, I mean, would it even be worth it when it comes to Flash kits? I mean, how much ad revenue are they really making from that? I don't know, but that's another thing that I've seen from my case is that it is also going to depend on how much what we talked about earlier, how much in the way of damages can be proven, if any.
Yeah, I don't think that they can prove damages on parodies at all. They're literally under fair use all the time. It's
Yeah, it's a
literally.
different case of parodies. Which again is why I find it so weird that Afabusa had to cancel. He didn't have to if he labeled it all as a parody, but it was his decision. It's unfortunate.
That's what I have been saying, like, since the very beginning, since that happened. I covered it back then, and I still said, oh my gosh, why did you do that? I know that you're having a kid. I know that. But just the last episode would not make any difference at all. And I know that he almost finished that. He just didn't release it. He could just finish that, and it would not make any difference. They will not go after him because by that logic they can always go after him now because all of the episodes are still there. They are not touched at all. So, you know, what's the logic here? What is it? Oh, Esmagan, thank you so
Mm.
much. $5 super chat. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have to head out now, so I'll leave off by again congratulating EmanG on his victory and thanks to Empress for hosting this interview. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Esmagan. Thank you.
Bye.
Wogan K is
Oh, I
also
should
here.
mention something. Oh, go ahead.
Please go ahead.
So one of the things now, I'm not saying it's copied one to one. Obviously, the same thing applies. There's probably subtle differences with the emblem, but the emblem of chaos, the entire concept of order and chaos, was, for all intents and purposes, just ripped straight out of Michael Moorcock's Elric of Miliberne series. If you've ever read that,
I haven't, but
right,
go on.
right down to the symbol of the eight-pointed star with 8 arrows going in all the cardinal directions. That was taken straight out of Elric.
Jesus, I gotta
And it's
check.
And if you like look at now, like the arrows, just the symbols with the arrows on all the Chaos Marines, the Chaos Warriors, the Chaos Demons, the Beastmen, the arrows are everywhere, and all of their symbolism and all of their emblems and all their banners, it's everywhere. On the spacecraft, things like the Hell Talons and even the full size the Chaos Warfleet, like everything has the arrow symbolism in it. But
Yeah,
but that was
Jesus.
but that was but its core, it was taken right from Elric, or at the very least was inspired by it. It and probably something similar in D&D. So these things all have a root somewhere if you go far back enough.
Yeah. By again, Aspagan. I'm gonna finish reading the comments, guys. Yeah, I mean that is mostly used in Warhammer Fantasy, right? That symbol exactly.
I mean, do the people who made I don't know if the people who created the original Games Workshop Warhammer, a lot of people call it Old Hammer, but the people who created the original Warhammer Fantasy and Rogue Trader, I mean, wonder if any of the people that are in that team are even still at the company anymore. Like even one, I'd have to wonder.
Yeah, I mean that's like 37 years of history basically. Who knows? Maybe I have to do a research on that. That's actually not a bad idea. Whatever happened there. Hmm. Okay. Yeah,
Well, the thing is,
well,
I was saying, someone, what is his name? Jeffrey Kirtle Trousers. That's a funny name, Jeffrey Kirtle Trousers. He said that StarCraft was a 40K rest
can you speak
or
closer to the
restyling.
mic? I'm losing you, like you're going far away from the
Sorry,
mic. Can you repeat that on the
sorry about that.
mic?
Says that StarCraft was essentially a 40K with a restyling. In the case of both Warcraft, the first three Warcraft games, then World of Warcraft, and then with StarCraft, there was definitely inspiration there because I can imagine that Blizzard probably did, on some level, want to make something licensed from Games Workshop, but if they ever made a deal, it was probably behind closed doors, or they even talking about it and it never went through. I don't think that they ever actually got into any legal trouble with Games Workshop, but they did end up making both Warcraft and StarCraft, and they became in their own right both a fantasy and a sci-fi that had their own distinct identity. But the inspiration is definitely very apparent in both of them. But in the case of fantasy, there's no joke about it. Both Warcraft and Warhammer were just inspired, or at least took a lot of influence from J.R.R. Tolkien's work with the Silmarillion and with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
You
but
can you can see that, right?
I mean, everyone are taking from somewhere. Just look at D&D. I mean, again, we have orcs, we have elves.
Mm-hmm.
Just change the name, change their
Well, even
origin.
D&D is a similar thing. D&D also probably took a lot from the Silmarillion, or at least Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien's work. Which Lord of the Rings is amazing, and so is the Silmarillion. But I mean, his work was so influential to fantasy as a whole. It's probably why. And they say imitation is the best form of flattery. If you ever heard that idiom.
Of course, yeah, it's very, very, very famous. Yeah, but the Tolkien's work is like baseline to everything. So it's like if it was a tree, it's going to have like the whole tree and the trunk, and then all the branches are like all the different things that were created after that.
And that's a
Uh,
problem that exists now. By the time we've gotten into the 21st century, it's something that exists as a phenomenon within fiction. I think at this point it is almost impossible to make something that is wholly original. And I'm not talking about like with inventions or patents. I'm talking just in fiction. It's very difficult to make something that is completely divorced and independent from something else somewhere within human history when it comes to our creative side. It's almost impossible to do so.
Yeah, we already have so many preconceived notions even about how things should look, when it comes to aliens even and ships, spaceships. So,
This will break when we actually encounter as a species real extraterrestrials somewhere in the stars. That's when this conception will probably change. Our whole understanding of it will completely change, but that's a ways off.
yeah, we'll see if it's anywhere in our lifetime, so to speak. Okay, just want to read a few comments and then I have a thought. Okay,
Yep.
so Yeah, Jeffrey says Tyranids look suspiciously like the xenomorph, and I think that someone in the chat recently told me that they're actually inspired by the xenomorph, but I haven't checked
They
myself.
definitely are. The Tyranids definitely are in some way inspired. It's not just the xenomorph, although that's a big part of it, but just Geiger, H.R. Geiger's art style in general. They seem to be heavily inspired by it with a lot of the biomorphs or bioforms. Especially you can see it on the Tyranid warriors or the even the Norn queens or some of the even with the gaunts, just across the board, you can definitely see some of the inspiration for that from H.R. Geiger's work. It's definitely there.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I mean, just by looking at it, but of course, it's interesting to check. Mostly people don't lie to me on the chats, but I do check when I can. Okay, and Logan, my
One
friend
thing that
Logan.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I'm just gonna read the comments after that.
I was say the thing that you'll notice with the Tyranids, and the exception to this is with the Bio Titans, which are the huge Tyranid forms. Almost all the Tyranids, they are, even though people say they're like a horde of insects, they're more like a combination of if you crossed insects with dinosaurs in terms of like their design choice, because almost all the Tyranid bioforms are bipedal, as in they stand on two legs. The Gaunts do it, the Warriors do it, the Hive Tyrant does it, the Gargoyles do it. Like it seems to be that's the design choice. And coincidentally, if you look at the Xenomorph from Alien, that also is a bipedal creature. It can stand on all fours, but uh, coincidence? Maybe, maybe not.
Also, that creature from the movies Quiet Place.
Those, but that's more new. But those things, I didn't really. Well, I didn't like that movie very much. But maybe, maybe. Have
I
you seen
mean,
it?
they look kind of like actually the creatures from Stranger Things. Yeah, I have seen all those seasons and have seen all the Quiet Places up to the newer one, which you don't want to watch.
The Demogorgon. The
Yeah, the
Demogorgon.
Demigorgon. Yeah.
But you can probably see some traces of that all the way back to like the design choices, all the way back to good old H.R. Geiger with when he made the first Alien, the original Xenomorph. There's probably inspiration there in some degree.
Yeah. And okay, so before I forget my thoughts,
Go ahead.
I wanted to read the comments, but yeah, just hold on, guys. I'm gonna read the comments. So, um, I used to do. I mean, not that I'm not going to do those things now, but before I analyze some of the 40K books, novels, some of the things that are said there, because I don't think that people are very much focusing on some of the depth in the lore. Sometimes just people read it and they think it's cool, but they don't think about maybe this has more of a meaningful connotation to it somehow. So basically, because I have studied literature before when I was younger, I had a very good teacher that was an actual Bulgarian aristocrat, also. And she really taught me how to analyze what different writers meant, how to analyze their patterns of writing events and stuff like that. Then I was able through this ability, so to speak, to guess. Even when I started with 40K at the beginning, I was able to analyze it really well and to really guess things that I didn't know, but I just guessed, probably what that means or this or that. Yeah, never mind. Then I watched a Dan Abnett interview. He explained how writers should write outside of what we actually see, outside of what we read. I mean, what they read in the books is just a small part of what they actually thought of. I mean, they thought of, like, for example, the structure of the Golden Throne, or what is exactly the Astronomicon and how does it work. All those things, the Emperor, more information about him. They already know those things. They have some kind of a blueprint for that, but they are choosing to not include it in the story in the lore because they want to put some kind of a mystery to it. And yeah, but the point is that to do all those things, I mean, to have more of a broader look on the universe, they have to themselves read a lot of other books. So they have to be very knowledgeable about all kinds of different things, whether that be fictional universes or even some theology books, some esoteric books. They have to read those things to get some concepts from there, whatever they think that could be written in a fictional way. And when I analyze the universe, basically, I reached the conclusion that the warp, overall, how the universe is written, it's really like an upside down of our real world, or how we understand or what we know basically about the afterlife. So, how is the warp? I mean, compared to the afterlife, it's like the opposite of that. It's the upside down, if I have to make an analogy with Stranger Things. So yeah, it's very interesting. It's just very
One must
interesting.
wonder. One must wonder when it comes to the warp. Like, it feels kind of the whole idea of it. I mean, it feels kind of bleak because there is no heaven or hell. It's just the warp, and the four strongest entities being the four chaos gods. If you're gonna be thrown into their domain when you die anyway, that's kind of bleak, wouldn't you think?
Ah, yeah, yeah, that's kind of the point. It is very tragic and dark, and it's absolutely meaningless, so to speak. When what I mean, compared to what we read about in the religious books or some theosophy books and all of that, it's totally the opposite. And then the 40K, what I also discovered is that the 40K gods are written as simple demons. I mean, the ways that they operate, basically, the ways that they're written in terms of their characteristics, even character, how they act, they are written as demons, not as gods. They are obviously very powerful, but their whole character is just demons. And then I watched this Dan Abnett interview, and he's like, they're actually demons. They're written as demons. And I'm like, amazing, I got it. I was able to get that. Yeah, I was just happy about that.
Well, the thing is with Dan Abnett, he is one of the he is one of the best authors in the Black Library. His books are really good.
Yeah,
You've
I mean,
read a few of them, I
he's
think.
not woke, for one.
It's not to do with woke. I wouldn't say that. It's more he. This is a issue with him that I think it's him. I'm not sure. I need to make sure I have my I guess my authors right. It's either him or Graham McNeil. They are really good at writing for the traders or for chaos in general. They're very good at like giving them essentially a steel man, like a they're representing at least the traders' grievances with the emperor. But when you go over to the loyalists, that's where I guess it's not as good. It seems like the way they depict the emperor, and especially, is it seems almost like they don't like him very much. That's what it feels like.
I'm kind of getting the feeling that you're talking about Graham McNeil, because
Yeah, it's him. Yeah, it's
he
probably him then.
he's
Yes.
not writing the major
Was he the one
books.
who did? Was he the one who wrote False Gods? I'm wondering.
False Gods. I gotta check right
That
now.
was him. Yeah, it was him. Graham McNeil did False Gods.
Did you check?
Yeah, it's in the Horse Heresy series. Yeah, he did False Gods. I
Ah,
definitely got
okay.
that feeling from reading False Gods that he definitely likes to steel man chaos. You know, to what like he does it pretty well. And but when it comes to depicting the Emperor and his decisions, it's almost like he has something against him. Like he really doesn't like him. At least I feel. But that's just a personal thought of mine.
Now I gotta read it. I mean, I haven't read everything yet. I studied the lore. I read a lot of Horus Heresy books and everything that is modern. I mean, a lot of what is now, so I can keep up with the current lore. But of course, the 40K books are a ton, and a lot of people actually did not recommend some of the books. They thought that they are pretty much a filler, so haven't read all. But if you think that I should read that to get more of an idea of how the gods are presented there, I would love to do that.
There are four that I recommend highly. The first four books in the Horus Heresy are very good.
Yeah, I read those.
Um, so that would be Horus Rising, False Gods, Galaxy of Flames, and Flight of the Eisenstein. Those are all very good.
Okay, wait a minute. So it turns out that I thought that I'm not. I I don't know how I missed it. If it's like the first four, I thought I read those, or I didn't. I gotta check. I mean, I have a list, so that was like a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago. Maybe I forgot that I read. I have no idea. But fortunately, I have a Discord, so I can actually check and see what I read there, because I have a list of what I read. So okay, I'm gonna check, and if I didn't, I'm gonna get an audiobook of that and read it. Yeah, the audio version.
hmm But yeah, those are all really good. But again, I'm just pointing out something that I definitely noticed when it came to the way that the traitor legions are at least described and depicted. That's all I was saying.
Okay. Have you read the last three books of the Horus Heresy that Dan Abnett
The
actually
most recent ones?
wrote?
No, I haven't. I've been meaning to, but I haven't. No, I've heard that some of my friends told me that there was some pretty good stuff in there, but for the most part, I kept myself spoiler free, so I haven't read them yet.
Well, I can totally recommend the first. Well, the second is like the best, and the third is the conclusion, of course. But as a book and overall information, like most dense is like the second one. But I really hope that you like The End and the Death, volume 1 to 3. There's something, and they're 18 hours. So listen, a book. I think they're all so thick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're just you have to have the time. But usually when you 3D model, you can listen to a book. And when I do other things like workout, meal prep, whatever, I listen to books. So that's how I use the time.
It's hard to read like directly like from the page. It's hard to do it now. I don't have enough free time. But usually, if it's an audio like with audiobooks, it's usually when I'm during my commute to work. That's the best time
Yeah,
because I have a very long commute to work, so that's always the best time to do it.
exactly. Whenever you can like listen to an audiobook is great. Okay, so just to read the comments as I promised. Alone in case says, I mean GW were inspired by the works of Tolkien. Yeah, he already said that actually before you talked about that, but just couldn't read it. Lovecraft, Dune, and 2000 AD, so they are definitely not
Oh
innocent of
yes,
boring. Yeah.
Lovecraft too. Which, by the way, Lovecraft is an inspiration for the intellectual property that I'm currently working on as well, because all of his work is in the public domain, so that's helpful. I made sure to check that. So
Awesome.
and Lovecraft, like his whole universe involving the outer gods within the void, and then the great old ones, their children, and the material sphere, like all that is very much in the DNA of the inspiration for the Chaos Gods in 40K. Just if you know anything about cosmic horror, just the idea that something is just so vastly incomprehensible compared to just us, like it's so big, like we are but ants to them. Like that's the whole idea with how Lovecraft was presenting it. Something so incomprehensible that it's beyond our understanding.
Mhm. I see that. I mean, it seems that a lot of fiction is basing their ideas on very bad gods, and gods that will be arrogant and think of us as ants instead of investing in us because we are a creation of theirs. I mean, like nobody is doing that.
Like
Everybody is
there's
doing the evil god thing.
to give you an example, in the Lovecraft mythos, now this is just a theory because it was never confirmed by Lovecraft, but it is believed that one of the outer gods, considered the most powerful one, his name is Azathoth, the blind idiot god. His intelligence is very, like, his entire drive is incredibly basic. It's just to feed, consume, and grow larger. And all the other outer gods, mainly Nyarlathotep, they keep him constantly subdued in eternal sleep. Um, and it is believed, like, this is just a theory, it's not confirmed, but some people like to interpret it that way, that the entire material sphere, our universe as we know it, exists within Azathoth's dreams, and if he ever wakes up, we would just blink out of existence.
So freaking depressing always with these.
But no, it's limited. But it's not just us, like us humans. Like all the other outer gods and great old ones also have investment in that, because if he wakes up, then they all perish too. So it's kind of like they keep him in eternal slumber so that they keep existing too. It's that kind of thing where it's so much bigger than any of us than we can ever possibly comprehend. That's probably another example of that type of cosmic horror that you cannot possibly, even in 100 generations, cannot possibly stop it. Do you get what I'm saying? It's just something that you can't stop.
But yeah, the point is that it is still a horror. Nobody likes to write anything more, well, higher in ways of thinking. Everybody just wants to write a horror always. But anyway, that's another topic. I mean, I appreciate 40K a ton because it has so many layers to it, and I still can find and analyze a lot of things that made it extremely fascinating to me. If that wasn't the case, I would not be invested in it because I don't like flat things. I don't like things that don't have depth to them. So I did find whatever I
It's
was.
good that you're not a. It's good that you're not a flat earther. That's good.
Jesus, no! Oh no!
That was a joke. Joke.
Yeah, you have to be really mental to be that. Okay. Okay, finishing reading the comments, and I have just one question. One question, it's a very fun question. So,
Yes.
okay, let me read the Yasmagan comment. So he says, "Oh check now, oh heck, sorry, oh heck no, GW are extremely guilty of borrowing every major point of their own setting. They only have talent in meshing it all together, but that was the GW crew back then." Okay, that is what he wants to
That's what
say.
I was thinking. That's what I was saying earlier. I wonder if any of the people who currently are at the head of the company. I wonder if any of the people that originally started it are still there. I do
Yeah,
wonder. Them, I mean, for all we know, I mean, they could probably. They're millionaires. They could probably all retire without an issue. I do wonder if they have.
yeah, absolutely they can. But really, maybe I will try to research this and find out what the heck happened with them. Jeffrey says, if you want to look into 40K Shrews, then the comics 2000 AD and Judge Dredd play a huge part, as well as movies like Mad Max. Yeah, I actually heard of that.
Oh yeah, 2000 AD is the art in 2000 AD is phenomenal. Oh, it's so good. If you ever want to see some like really good 80s style artwork, that has so much. Very good.
Okay, I'm sure that my friend Logan, he's the comic book specialist more than me, so he knows about those things because he knows about Judge Dredd and this whole series and other companies even that makes comic books like 2000 AD that I have not heard like I mean, not much as I heard, of course, of DC and Marvel, but there's others that made very iconic characters as well. They're just not as big. So yeah, I'll check that. And Jeffrey
Mhm.
says Laura is crucial, the most important thing. Yes, and hi to Michael in the chat, a long time fan, and also happened to be 40K fan. That's very cool. I actually have a few guys that were already 40K fans who just never knew. They never told me anything before I started with 40K. I was doing movie reviews, game reviews, all of that, and all of a sudden it turns out that some of my audience are already 40K fans, which was pretty cool. Actually, I never knew. So yeah. Jeffrey says, I wonder if the legacy of Kane series of games had an influence on the setting. Knights is recent versus the elites. I don't know how that is supposed to be read, but it does provoke ideas for me. Okay.
He said 80s, the 80s, like the 1980s.
Use numbers, please. Sorry, I totally muted my mic. And Logan says, I think there was also inspired by Lovecraft, so maybe that's why something looks similar. That's a good point. It would suck to be an inner god. Flat earthers on the rise around the
Yeah, an
globe.
inner god. Yeah, it would. I mean, what he's saying is, I think he's referring to what I was talking about with Azathoth, the blind idiot god, because he's kept in eternal sleep. He's essentially inert. He just sleeps forever.
Yeah, what an existence is that? I mean, very poor one, I guess.
I
Okay,
mean,
so
but then
the
again, he's called the blind idiot god because he's not very intelligent. Like, when I say like his entire like his psyche is very like juvenile because, as I said, it's just very basic. Just eat, consume, and continue to grow larger.
basically a parasite.
Mm-hmm. Kind of.
Okay. Yeah, last question. Are you a Batman fan? Because that's your logo.
Whoa, how could you guess? Yes, I am a very big. He is my favorite superhero. Yes, I'm a very big Batman fan. My favorite video game is Batman Arkham City. Yes, love Batman from a very
Awesome.
early age.
Awesome. Yeah, I really wanted to be Batman when I was growing up.
Oh, I don't have the physique to be Batman. He knows like like 10 different forms of martial arts, and oh god, I could never. No,
I know,
no,
but
that's way too hard.
I grew up with superheroes. I love Superman. It's my like number one superhero. Then it's Batman. It's like my most ever second favorite superhero, but they're really like on the same level. I just have to pick one for first, so that's why I just gravitate a bit more towards Superman. But otherwise, there's Batman, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man as well. And there's like of course many others, but I more gravitate towards DC in general and Batman and Superman. So yeah, what do you think about? Hey, have you watched the new animation actually, the Cape Crusader?
I have not, but my friends told me who did. They told me it was very. I don't want to. I don't want to ruin anybody's fun, but they told me it was very bad, so I'm not gonna be watching it. No thanks.
Yeah, they save you a lot of time because I'm watching it, Logan is watching it, and I mean, we're both like at episode 4 or 5 now, then like 10 episodes, I think. And it's pretty much, it has some kind of a feeling of the original series. Feeling is just the word. And then everything else is diversity all around in the 40s. Then you have Harley Quinn, totally
1940s, no
changed.
less.
Yes. Harley Quinn is not Harley Quinn, is someone that is first Asian, second a lesbian, third she's doing evil things that Harley Quinn never did and acts in the ways that she never did act. It's just totally different character. They can totally just made a new character if they wanted to,
They
but
could
no.
have. I don't know why they didn't.
Well, apparently the creator of the show, Bruce Timm, I think was it? He said that, and get this now, get this, that Batman did not have good villains. So that is
He
why
said that.
he
He
did
said
what he
that.
did. Yes, he said that. It just came out yesterday,
Batman
I
has
think.
some of the best villains in all of comics. No, no. Look, even for people like no. Even I don't like Spider-Man. Like that's my hot take. I don't like Spider-Man very much. But even I know the best the heroes with the best supervillains are Batman and Spider-Man. They are the best. They have the best supervillains. They have that is no contest. like no, that's a stupid thing to say. Why would he say that? After all that time he spent working on the animated series and Justice League, how could he say that? That's fucking terrible.
I mean, I know we are like all of us are shocked, and it was not just him. I mean, I'm sure that Logan is going to type in the chat the other original creator that actually was
Paul Dini.
yeah, Paul Dini, exactly. Who actually was responsible for a lot of the quality and that, yeah, thank you, Logan. And that Bruce Timm. So Bruce Timm is basically doing some things that are very questionable, like sex scene between Harley Quinn and like, not Robin, damn it, Batwing. All those things that just don't belong in animation or in the stories in general of Batman. Just he's trying to do something edgy but not in a Batman-y way. And Batman is not actually in the series much. He is not doing anything. I mean, the detective work is done by, I think, Black Barbara. She is black now because why
Is
not?
she
All the red-headed
is
characters.
she in the police? Is she in the police force or is she just
I
a
think, I think,
bystander?
I think she wasn't. Yeah, I think she is, and she is like researching stuff, having her own investigations. But yeah, pretty much for the last few years, every character that is supposed to be a redhead is turned black. Have you
And that's
noticed that?
very odd. That's a very odd. I'm not saying it's coincidence. It's like a very strange. How would I put it? It's like a very strange phenomenon. Like I don't know why they're doing it, but they keep doing it consistently, and it's very. It raises a lot of questions. It does raise a lot of questions as to why.
Yeah, and me and Logan used to joke like, well, if somebody someday has to play me, it's going to be a black woman
Is he a ginger?
with the red
Is he a
hair.
ginger?
Who is Ginger?
Logan, is he a ginger, or are you talking about yourself?
No, no, I'm talking about myself.
Oh yes, that would be funny.
Yes, a lot because I'm I'm so so white. It's funny. I mean, I'm not white as an Irish person, but Bulgarians are pretty Caucasian. As much as I mean, we can get. Jesus, but
Mhm.
that's gonna be hilarious and very, very wrong. Super racist as well. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Logan says Barbara is a lawyer in the show. I just forgot. Because this show just,
Lawyer.
yeah, it just doesn't make any impression on you when you watch it. So I couldn't tell the difference if she's a detective or a lawyer. I just can't.
Wonderful. Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I mean, and everyone, I mean, not everyone, but Quinn, that's not Harley Quinn, but whoever it is, Quinzel, Dr. Quinzel is kind of fat. Barbara is not, thank God. And then there's another character that was kind of fat. Oh, yes, that was Detective. No, really Detective. Forgot her name again. Logan, help me. Renee Montoya, thank
Hold
you.
on one second. I
Thank you.
need to be right. I need to be right back. Can you give me a minute?
Okay. Okay, guys, I'm gonna use this moment to read some of the things that you wrote here. So Jeffrey says, Batman the Animated Series from the 90s was per class, intelligent and empathetic. It created Harley Quinn and gave Mr. Freeze a compelling tragic lore. Yeah, I mean, I watched it when I was a little girl. And hi to Martin, by the way. I saw you there. So I have not watched it as an adult at all. I have watched actually the Superman series and some of the Justice League series. I mean, not the series, the episodes. Yeah, I have seen that as an adult, but I never seen the Batman. Maybe that is my issue. I do have to go back and see it, but it did make such a huge impression on me that I never forgot it. Like overall, and that is something that will stay with me forever. And now with this show, it's like such a horrible and ridiculous imitation. And yeah, when you make half of the characters fat, then they're not supposed to be fat, then they make them lesbians and they have open relationships out there in the open. In the 40s, you're not talking about present time, in the 40s, it is absolutely out of place and ridiculous. It is obviously forced. So that is all. It has to do with the creator, has to do with Bruce Timm, and does not have to do at least how it seems that Amazon. I mean, Amazon is not to be blamed for this. It seems because they're just like the distributors, not the creators. Warner Brothers are still the creators, but they seem like they want to get the company and just run it to the ground. Their stock is like $6, as I heard from. I mean, today I think so. Yeah, Warner Brothers overall, which is very bad. Harley Quinn from the cartoon was great. The movie ruined her. Yeah, we can talk about the two Harleys, but yeah, of course that from the cartoon is what she was originally because that's how her character was
Right, I'm back.
presented. Okay,
Sorry, I had to go to the restroom. My bad. Thank you for waiting.
no problem. We're going to be finishing here very soon. But yeah, I was just telling everyone how in the 40s we have a lesbian relationship between Renee Montoya and Dr. Quinzel, and they just openly show that public place like a cafe, and I'm like, what is happening here? So, no romance for Bruce Wayne. He's barely there, but those two women can totally go at it in the 40s. It's no problem at all.
I'm not going to say they can't have existed, but it's just kind of unrealistic that they're. Oh, are they open about it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're open, like they're showing their
That's
relationship open in the public place.
That's fairly unrealistic.
Yeah, it's not. There's not gonna be like super accepted. Oh, look, two women are kissing. Oh yeah, every day. That's happening every day. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's the 40s. Everybody like was in the closet, literally in the closet. Jesus. The point is that they're ruining Batman in general when you put such things in anything that those things do not belong there in the first place. It's just ruined because it makes everything not about the character. It makes everything about sexuality of someone or whatever. Just changing the characters. Like Gordon is black. His daughter is black, and yeah, a lot of
I mean,
people
it
are just
depends. I mean, like, did you see the Batman, the one from 2022?
yeah, yeah. The Batman with Robert Pattinson. Yes.
So in that one, Gordon is also played by a black actor. His name is Jeffrey. Right now, he's one of my favorite actors. So when I found out, like, what I'm getting at is like, it isn't always a bad thing. Like
Yeah, of
when I found out
course, of
that he was
course.
playing Gordon, I was like, oh my god, yes, he's so good. I'm sold. Yes, because I really like him as an actor. So I was, and
Yeah,
I really liked
context.
his, I really liked him as Gordon. So that was fine with me.
Yeah, context is everything. I mean, yeah, I can totally get it and accept it in certain situations, but in like a series that's like in the 40s and you have to turn, I mean, you have to also turn Barbara black because of that, so it really looks out
Mhm.
of place and it is forced. I mean, we know why are they doing this. It's like it's not like we don't know. So in this case it looks forced. It's not integrated like organically. It does not feel like that. In the 2002 Batman movie you can say yeah, it's fine. I also actually like him because I watched him for years in Westworld. So
Oh, he was great. Yeah, he was great in that. Yes.
yeah, he's so great. So I didn't have anything against that at all. It's just very important how you do it. That's it. You have to put substance
Hmm.
behind it. Um, yeah, really, that is it. Of course, then we have to mention the fact that sometimes when you change a character's race, then why don't you do that for everyone? And then this whole thing becomes a total chaos and nobody is themselves anymore. So some kind of integrity of the characters must be held. And yeah,
Uh,
they don't seem to have any boundaries with that anymore, you know?
well, the problem is, it seems to be very one-sided at the very least. Or rather, they only do it for certain characters and not for others. Like, you're not going to see they call it race swapping. You're not going to see, or even gender swapping. You're not going to see that if it's a black character. You're not going to see them being played by a white character, by a white actor. That's never going to happen. At least not in the modern day.
Yeah, just switch Black Panther with a blonde, blue-eyed guy, like right now.
Yeah, a true Aryan.
Yeah, nobody is gonna say anything. No, just the whole internet's gonna explode. Yeah, I know. Okay,
They
reading the
never
last
do that.
comments. Reading the last comments, so we can wrap this up. But yeah, we have been on one for 1 hour and 36 minutes. But we turned this into totally very fun conversation. So I'm super happy. Okay, so Jeffrey says
Yeah, me
originally
too.
Harley was a gymnast and a psychiatrist. Yes. How can a gymnast be fat? That's a good
That's very
point.
true. Very true.
In the 40s, the only accepted lesbians were in the aristocracy. Yeah, sorry, this is a very hard word for me. Aristocracy. And even they were expected to have a husband for show. Yes, it was like a paravan of basically you have to play not yourself in front of everyone. And actors did that too. The Hearst media tycoon had his lesbian daughter committed to an asylum? Jesus Christ. Okay, then that's very. It's extremely
Damn.
horrible and harsh. And Logan finishes with she isn't a gymnast in this version, but that is the problem. If you're going to change the character so much, just create a new one. Exactly.
Hmm. But the thing is, that's difficult for them. Or no, no, no. The joke I'm in with my friends. The technology to do that has been lost to the ages. We no longer know how to. Joke.
Is that something like when Ubisoft said that they cannot create female characters? I mean, it's hard for them to animate female characters.
It's it is in that same vein. Yes, it's like nope. The technology has been lost to the ages. We don't know how to do it anymore.
Oh yeah, when we have all the technology in the world now, we can just even tell to the AI, "Hey, just create this and that," and the AI does it. I mean, I made a freaking amazing emperor, pretty much with the AI, just giving it a lot of pictures that we already have. And some, yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever
AI is
pictures.
making strides in 2D, but for now in 3D, it's not really something that uh seems to be, I guess, very. I mean, it's still people are trying, but it's not very like you see a lot of 2D generated images, but when it comes to 3D models, it's not really something that is that advanced right now. Now that can all change. Like they could make improvements to the point where it just becomes extremely advanced, and then it. I mean, I don't want to say I'd be out of a job, but that definitely has crossed my mind a few times.
Yeah, well, you can just, of course, I mean, we can point out to Avatar, which was made in 2010, and James Cameron literally had to put some invention into the cameras, the 3D cameras, the technology. He had to, you know, think of a lot of ways to film the actors and scan them and all those things. Obviously, they are humanoids. The Navi, they are not exactly human, but still, you can make. Of course, there's no actual. Anything does not stand in front of creation of a good female character on the screen in any case, even if that's an alien. So, yeah, that's ridiculous in any case.
Hmm.
Okay, so Jeremiah says, haha, like when NASA said we can't go to the moon anymore.
Oh, is he saying that it was faked? Be careful. The government will get you if you be saying that out loud.
No, nothing of the sort. But he's just saying that NASA said that we can't go to the moon anymore for some reason.
Maybe there's. Well, I have to look into that. Maybe they just don't see it as. Maybe it's not no longer affordable or financially like viable to do so. Maybe that's why.
I have to check because they already have like plans for Mars, so the moon is really really close. It's not
Yeah, I hope
Mars.
I hope Elon starts colonizing Mars as soon as possible. I need to get off this planet.
Oh Jesus, I hope that like that things are going to change for the better, so we don't have to do that. Ah, one can hope. Right now it's really really bad, but one can hope at least. Okay, MNG. So thank you so much for this conversation. It
Oh,
was
before
great.
before we go, I want to say, well, obviously, thank you, but can I talk about the thing I'm making, or would you rather I not? Because again, it's your show.
No, please go ahead.
So I'm working on, and for the moment, I have. It's meant to be a tactical war game of sorts. Rank and flank with large armies. Not the same as Warhammer, mind you. Not the same. I'm deliberately separating it from that. So it's not at all like reminiscent of it. But it's basically a game. It's set in 1845, so it's historical fiction. And it's in a um, alternate retrofuturistic science fiction combined with fantasy elements. Um, and I'm calling it MBG. That's the code name for it. And basically, it's about, and it takes a lot of inspiration from works of H.P. Lovecraft. But the idea is you have all the large empires at the time. So mainly the British Empire, the French, the Prussians, the Austrians, the Russians, the Americans, the Japanese. The Japanese weren't large at the time, but it's historical fiction, so making changes. And basically, you have all these, and then they are forced to contend not only with each other, but they're also fighting against several existential threats. The main one is a species of giant insects, which very much inspired by things like Earth Defense Force and Starship Troopers. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
Awesome.
And
Sounds
I'm currently
interesting.
working on miniatures for it, making models for them. I've already had several proof of concept designs done. But once I'm ready to release it, I will of course do the usual, with advertising and of course, putting out lots of promotional images. I probably have to worry about if it's feasible for me because I'm just one person, because marketing is very expensive.
Yeah. Well,
The
I
main
wish you
issue is going to
luck.
be getting the word out. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to mention that.
Awesome. That's great. Well, you see what happened with Trench Crusade. It wasn't popular, and all of a sudden, all overnight, it became popular because people are looking for an alternative of
I thought it was
40K.
popular, but then it had a riot. Well, there was the controversy. I don't know if that made it unpopular, but definitely had there was a I don't really know what the actual answer to that one is. I don't know if it's because they alienated people or maybe it's people just see it that way because of the way that they acted towards people on social media and in their community. I don't know.
Well, basically, real briefly, what happened was that I mean, overall, Trench Crusade was not very well known to like the general audience or to most 40K fans, but just because it showed up and people were like, hey, we discovered this, it looks like it's pretty good alternative, and then it blew up, and then it blew up a lot more because the scandal started forming on Discord when people were actually asking questions that they have been censored or blocked. Then it turns out that that was because they were hosting, another company, something 28, but I mean, by this point I forgot. they were hosting the servers for the game, and then the developers of the games had to separate themselves and have their own servers, but things just continued there. And the creators themselves confirmed that they are really thinking in these sort of ways. I mean, of the woke way. So people thought that this is not woke product, but it turns out that it's woke. It is a woke product, and everybody just like dropped it. And whoever remained and didn't care at all, or they were woke and they wanted this, they just left. I mean, they remained. Sorry, they remained there. So yeah, that's what happened there.
Uh, well, again, I didn't really make what I'm trying to do. I didn't really make this as like, oh, it's an alternative to 40K because it's not science. It's not far in the future science fiction, but it definitely has some inspirations from it in terms of just how I came to the idea in the first place. At least when it comes to like what made me want to do it was to make an industrial property based on something I'm interested in. That was the whole purpose of it. Something around my interests rather than just taking from something that already exists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but would you say that it's grim dark, because that can really help if it
No,
is? It's not.
it's not really grimdark. No, no, no. Because it's not like because the situation, at least from all I've done a lot of, I had to do a lot of research for writing out, the scenario and all the history behind it. Because this is alternate history, so you have to take from the actual history of the world. So there's a lot of changes that I have to make, and also have to account for changes in geopolitics that would result from it. But basically, the situation is not completely hopeless. It's not where no matter what, we're like there's no hope of ever winning, but it's more that we have all the human societies, all the different countries, especially the more powerful ones. They have stability and they have order, and you have these existential threats that are not even human that want to destroy them, and they want to protect what they have. That's the idea. Like they want to keep what they have. They want to protect what they've worked so hard to build. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's still very fascinating. So maybe if you can catch people on the grim dark aspect of it, if it's not that, then you can totally appeal to something of the other qualities of it. I mean, not everything has to be freaking grim dark. I mean, we have enough of that in the world.
There are elements of that when it comes to the influence of, because I told you this was using elements from Lovecraft's work. There are elements of grimdark when it comes to the influence of the outer gods themselves, because again, from the perspective of the people of the earth, the same thing as is the case with the gods of chaos is like they are so incomprehensibly large and powerful compared to us. We're like ants to them, and that's always something we have to worry about. Like pushing them, like can we even fight against that? That's the thing that you have to worry about when it comes to this universe.
Okay, well,
That's ever present. I'm sorry for keeping this going for so long. I know you want to close out. I'm sorry about that.
no, no worries. It was very interesting to hear, and it's important for people to know what is coming. And I hope that you can make this big and successful. So yeah, it's really awesome.
I'm hoping so. My goal is not though. Like first and foremost, I do want to get. Like obviously, the goal is not to make. I mean, making money would be nice, but the goal is not ultimately to make money. Again, it's my passions. It's what I'm interested in. With being creative, like what I want to do. Ultimately, the goal is to make something that lines up with my interests that I really enjoy. That's first and foremost what I wanted to do. That's what I'm
Yeah,
hoping to
well,
do.
in any case, making money, it's a great way to support your art, and you will deserve those money if you make a good product. It's only natural. Like there's, even when you look at some games that are like free, like for example, I mean, that's not totally a great analogy, but I'm just saying, people are willing to support with their full hearts and soul things that they really love. Yeah, like Warframe. It's a free game, but it runs for like so many years now because people just love it and they support it. But you can still play it for free completely if you want. Once again, not the best analogy, but the principle is the same. If you make a good product, people will support it.
That's the goal. Ultimately, if you make it, they will come.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so I wish you a ton of luck. We can totally, if you wish, if you have time, sometimes we can talk about other things that are fun, that we have in common. if we can make a very interesting show for everyone and for ourselves as well. But we can talk about that, of course. So in any case, this was great. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone and for the great support, guys. And of course, to Asmogan. This was amazing of him to do. Jeffrey lastly says, no, the Saturn 5 is no longer buildable. The factories and staff that worked on Saturn 5 have lost of missing tooling, production process, and skill set have vanished. So basically, that's about why we cannot go to the moon, I guess.
All right, Elon, get on that.
Yeah, he's busy, but I think that he has a lot of things coming in any case. And Logan says, "Good luck to MNG with this amazing project." Yeah,
Oh,
and
thank
later,
you,
Mark.
thank you.
Yeah,
I will keep on adding more to it and expanding it.
awesomeness. Thank you so. So, guys, if you'd like to support MNG, I actually put all the links down below necessary in the description of the video. Patreon, just everything. Those three links that you can visit if you like to support him in his future endeavors. And of course, if you like to support me, there's a Patreon, my educational content, you know where. Everything's down below for you guys. But yeah, with me, the 40k Empress and MNG here. Bye bye. Have a great night, guys.
Have a great night.